Hello and welcome to Out of the Box, the show where we take a look at the modern side of lenses. Or is it also known as, wow, he actually has lenses from this decade. This is the TTArtisan 100mm f2.8, also known as the Bubble-Bokeh lens. For those who don't know, this lens is essentially a copy of the Meyer Optic Gurlitt's Stereoplan 100mm f2.8, an incredibly legendary camera lens. As you would probably expect if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'd suspect I owned one, maybe even two of the originals. Nope, I don't have one. I would love to, but considering what they go for these days, it's a bit out of my reach for now. So, why did I buy this lens? Originally, I wanted it very badly. I remember looking at reviews and thinking, I must have this lens. The Bubble-Bokeh looks incredible! Then I bought it and it hasn't really seen much use until now. The lens comes in a nice little black box with a diagram on the lens on it, which I really like. Originally announced in 2023, this lens has a focal length of 100mm and a closest focusing distance of 0.9 meters. It is designed for full-frame cameras and uses a 49mm filter thread. It features a maximum aperture of f2.8 and a minimum of f22. With 13 aperture blades and a Stereoplan optical design, 3 elements and 3 groups, it's built for character. The lens comes on an M42 mount, making it easy to adapt to a multitude of cameras. The official TTArtisan spec sheet lists the weight at approximately 307 grams, but on my scale it comes out at 329 grams. It is quite hefty for such a small lens. The all-metal design is proof of that. It even comes with a metal screw cap for the front and a metal M42 rear cap. The aperture ring is at the front and the focus ring is at the rear. The focus feels nice and smooth, which I would hope for considering it's still a relatively new lens. Personally, I love how the 13 aperture blades look when you're stopping down. It's a real treat to see. One weird thing. Every time I attach this lens to my M42 adapter, it sits upside down. Maybe it's my adapter, but this isn't the first time it's happened with my M42 lenses. If anyone knows why the indexing is off, please let me know because I have no clue. As the name implies, this is a Bubble-Bokeh machine. With a high contrast and specular highlights in the background, the lens produces distinct bubbles. You can see that the bokeh likes to overlap, and to my eye, it looks slightly like onion ring bokeh. That doesn't bother me, but your mileage may vary. One thing I noticed is that the raw photos can look very washed out and lacking in contrast. Fortunately, you can fix this easily by sliding the dehaze slider up. This is to be expected with a lens that copies the Stereoplan formula. As I like to say, vintage lenses come with vintage problems, even if they were made in 2023. The bokeh wide open is interesting, but there's a trade-off. You get a ton of halos, especially at f2.8. If you look at this 100% crop of the berries, there's a lot of glow around them, and it's quite soft. But here's the interesting part. Stopping down to f4 removes most of the problems. The halos are significantly reduced, and while you can still get some purple gunk in the form of chromatic aberration, that's standard for such a simple optical design. But the real surprise, the Bubble-Bokeh stays mostly the same. Take these two photos, one shot wide open and the other at f4. Yes, the bubbles aren't quite as wild, but you get a very usable background, even without everything looking like you smeared Vaseline over the front element. That's a win in my book. Another example is the photo of the cherub. Wide open, the background is a bubble explosion, but it feels soft and glowy. At f4, you still get a wild background, but the subject is much sharper and much more detailed. The stop-down test shows this in action. You can actually see the bubbles persisting even as you approach the minimum aperture of f22. The only time I encountered bad flaring was during specific testing. It can completely wash out the photo. Here's an example of the haze set at 0 and then at 50. I also noticed something strange while writing this review. From around f8 and onwards, in my stop-down test, a specific flare starts forming. I didn't move from the spot, so I wonder if light is reflecting off the aperture blades themselves. As for the color rendering, it feels okay. Straight out of the camera, the colors can be a bit muted, but you can easily bring them back in post. It's exactly what you'd expect from such a simple construction. On a Canon 6D, the lens felt natural and balanced. On my smaller mirrorless bodies, it might feel a bit front heavy, but for me, it was a joy to use. My personal sweet spot is definitively around f4. So in the end, does it really matter? Okay, jokes aside, was this lens worth it? Yes. It's not terribly expensive, the build quality is great, and the character is undeniable. It's a solid modern vintage lens. If you want that tactile feel and the soap bubble look without the risk of buying an old lens that has more fungus than a mushroom farm, this is a great alternative. I love that we are seeing these replicas. Given how expensive the original Meyer optic is, this is a fantastic way to get that look, with a guarantee of pristine optics. Where does it fit in my collection? I can definitively see myself pulling this out when I want that specific look. Now that I know that the magic happens a few stops away from wide open. If you're interested in Bubble-Bokeh, want a brand new lens, and don't want to navigate the minefield that is the used market, I highly recommend it. I'm really looking forward to the future of these modern vintage lenses. I know there's a TTArtisan 75mm f1.5, the Biotar clone, that I want to get my hands on. But that'll remain a dream until I save up some more gear money. So that was the TTArtisan 100mm f2.8. How do you feel about these modern replicas? Do you love the convenience? Or do you prefer the real vintage deal? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing or hitting the like button, and I'll see you next time.